The anime starts with Kikuru, a hunter, deciding to quit his job because he's never had a romantic relationship. Since childhood, he's only focused on hunting monsters, and now he wants to enjoy his youth instead. Inomi, the guild receptionist, advises him not to quit the job, so he can get severance pay. She also mentions that a new hunter, Hitamu, will join today. Inomi suggests Kikuru accompany Hitamu on her first mission, and he agrees. In the forest, Hitamu detects enemies from afar, but before she can attack, she disappears and approaches them to greet them. The slime monsters immediately attack her, and Kikuru rushes to rescue her. Kikuru then asks Hitamu if she didn't bring her weapon, to which she replies that she's a martial artist and her body is her weapon. After that, they continue their search and encounter a bear monster. At that moment, Kikuru plans to attack from behind, but Hitamu's loud voice alerts the monster, leading to her capture. However, this distraction allows Kikuru to defeat the monster. Upon returning, they report to Inomi. Kikuru mentions he doesn't plan to stop being a hunter until his replacement arrives. After that, Inomi informs them that Maidana, a witch, has joined as another hunter. In their first meeting, Kikuru unintentionally angers Maidana by calling her a little girl. Wanting to retire sooner, Kikuru agrees to accompany Hitamu and Maidana to train them as his replacements. After that, they embark on missions together once more and encounter slime monsters in the forest, which Kikuru instructs Hitamu to handle the slime monster while he and Maidana stand guard. However, Hitamu struggles against the slime monster, similar to before. Kikuru then instructs Maidana not to intervene and assess the situation first. But seeing Hitamu in trouble, Kikuru can't help but act impatiently. After rescuing Hitamu, Maidana uses her healing magic to treat her injured hand. Suddenly, a giant slime monster attacks them, prompting Hitamu to reveal her true strength. However, the slime monster captures Maidana. Thankfully, Kikuru rescues her. Following the incident, Kikuru decides to head back to the guild. At the guild, Maidana expresses her gratitude to Kikuru for saving her. Their bond now grows closer, much to Inomi's delight, as Kikuru now has a friend again. The following day, Kikuru's senior retired, much to his annoyance as it would make his own retirement more difficult. Inomi then informed Kikuru that 2 new recruits would join, but they turned out to be teenage girls, worsening Kikuru's frustration about training them. One of the girls, named Toxico, admitted she was reluctant to become a hunter, but joined due to financial needs. Kikuru was warned not to expect much from her despite her being a witch. Shortly after, they entered the forest for a mission, where Hitamu detected monster presence but failed to fight them alone and got captured again. At that moment, Toxico was exhausted, so she couldn't demonstrate her strength either. After saving Hitamu, they encountered a rabbit monster. Kikuru then urged Toxico to use her power, but she hesitated. When the rabbit attacked, Toxico unleashed her lightning magic. Despite her great power, Kikuru noted her slow reflexes and advised her to anticipate the opponent's moves. Frustrated, Toxico unleashed more powerful magic in retaliation. After returning to the guild, the other new girl, Hana, arrived. She was a warrior and Toxico's childhood friend. After seeing her, Kikuru thinks that she is a suitable successor. Surprisingly, Hana was the daughter of the equipment manufacturing company owner and requested fair treatment like everyone else. Before a mission, Hana's guards asked Kikuru to take care of Princess Hana. At that mission, Toxico decided not to join, opting to play games instead. During the mission, they encountered slime monsters again. Kikuru immediately intervened when Hitamu was about to attack, fearing she might make another mistake. Hitamu got angry, feeling Kikuru didn't let her do her job. When a monster attacked, Hana swiftly defeated it alone. However, a horde of monsters appeared, and despite Kikuru's attempt to help, Hana insisted on defeating them all. She unleashed her powerful technique, but it caused her memory to become blurry afterward, acting strangely like a drunken person after defeating the monsters. After returning to the guild, Kikuru wanted to discuss with Hana about her berserk power, but he felt pressured by her guards around them. Following a mission in the forest, Kikuru gathered everyone and noticed they didn't seem like allies, so he suggested they rest after 5 days of continuous missions. He proposed they bond by playing together, although it was Kikuru who needed the rest, exhausted from dealing with them. The next day, they followed Kikuru's advice and took a break. While they were away, Kikuru pondered the deaths of hunters from the previous year, suspecting women were also victims. However, fighting alongside the women made him realize their enemies weren't interested in killing but playing. He attributed this to the women's mana, as they had more than men, which the monsters in the forest need to survive by sucking mana from humans. Meanwhile, Kikuru's other team member gathered in a cafe for a meal. At that moment, Toxico asked about their love lives, which Hana explained she never had one due to her family's constant surveillance. Maidana echoed this sentiment, busy with her duties, and Hitamu admitted to focusing solely on training, while Toxico remained secluded in her room. Realizing this, their story painted a bleak picture of their lives. The following day, Anami, having heard Kikuru's thoughts, decided to investigate in the forest, accompanied by Hitamu and Kikuru. Hitamu, as usual, tracked the monster's scent, while Anami asks about their behavior, which Kikuru found it simple, as they just needed Hitamu to lead the way, and later the monsters seemed to play with her. Despite Hitamu's seeming foolishness, her skills in scent tracking surpassed Kikuru's, making her a valuable asset. However, her lack of self-awareness often led to her being caught by the monster. When Hitamu fell into a pit, the monsters attacked her and Anami witnessed their odd behavior, confirming Kikuru's observations. As Kikuru moved to rescue Hitamu, Anami was also targeted, experiencing the monster's strange actions. At that moment, Kikuru hesitated, torn between saving Anami and his confusion at seeing her treated oddly by the monsters. After Anami was rescued, she realized she hadn't sustained any injuries from the monster attacks, as the monsters didn't mean any harm. They then focused on rescuing Hitamu, who had endured the assaults. The following day, Kikuru, having just finished a health checkup, was asked by Nurse Reizumisu to fill in for the departed doctor, fearing she'd be fired for another mistake. Kikuru reluctantly agreed but disguised himself with bandages to avoid detection by his patients. Much to his surprise, he discovered that his patients were his 4 team members. Kikuru then proceeded to examine them one by one, starting with Hana, then Toxico, followed by Maidana, and finally Hitamu. After examining Hitamu, she whispered something to Kikuru before he left the room, where she expressed her trust in him despite not understanding his actions. At that moment, Kikuru realized Hitamu had seen through his disguise, possibly by recognizing his scent despite the bandages. The following day, wanting to train his team, Kikuru divided them into 2 groups. He planned to train Maidana and Toxico first, focusing on improving their physical strength and stamina. However, Maidana preferred training with Hana and Hitamu, finding them more authoritative and kind-hearted. Toxico sensed Maidana's reluctance and labeled her as spoiled, sparking anger between them and disrupting their warm-up. Their confrontation left them both exhausted even before the training began, much to Kikuru's annoyance. After that, they had to resume training, but Toxico, who was very weak, eventually passed out from exhaustion. Kikuru then focused on building their physical strength with sit-ups, but Toxico couldn't keep up after the 3rd repetition, citing exhaustion from her earlier unconscious. Kikuru then reminded her not to act spoiled, mentioning he had been training since he was 10 and never complained. This comparison angered Toxico, but Kikuru insisted that she was the same as yesterday. During a break, Maidana remarked on Toxico's weakness, contrasting herself as someone who could handle all of Kikuru's training without laziness. As they prepared to resume training, Maidana felt dizzy when she tried to stand and Kikuru caught her. Feeling guilty for pushing them too hard, Kikuru apologized, admitting he wasn't accustomed to training others. Witnessing Maidana's sprained ankle, Kikuru decided to halt the training. He offered to carry Maidana, but she declined, wary of being close to him. Toxico then volunteered to carry Maidana to the city, suggesting they rest for 10 minutes before continuing. Concerned about the delay, Maidana decided to use her recovery magic on herself instead. The following day, Kikuru continued his training with Hana and Hitamu. After the session, he praised Hana for her exceptional strength, but cautioned her against relying too heavily on her berserk power, fearing it might disrupt their battle formations. Despite knowing the true secret behind her berserk technique, he chose not to reveal it. Addressing Hitamu next, Kikuru noted her tendency to make unnecessary movements, leading to premature fatigue despite her stamina. He advised her to tie around her enemies first before launching attacks. Suddenly, Hana's behavior changed as her berserk skill activated, prompting Kikuru to quickly hide. Remembering Hana's servant's advice to consult Toxico about her, Kikuru reached out to Toxico, who explained that excessive mana intake could trigger Hana's berserk state. She also explains that mana drunkenness, due to drinking too much mana fluid, could also happen to Hana, but the berserk would quickly disappear. Toxico suggested Kikuru approach Hana, but pretend to be injured to prevent her from attacking. Following this advice, Kikuru emerged, successfully deceiving Hana. A few days later, they embarked on another mission, but once again, they struggled against the monsters. Kikuru observed that they failed to utilize their strengths effectively. During the battle, Toxico's magic accidentally hit Hana, leading to Hitamu's capture while trying to help her. Witnessing her friends in trouble, Medina cried, attracting more monsters, until eventually Toxico unleashed her lightning magic, leading to their victory. They celebrated with a victory party, viewing the incident as a success. Although Toxico was pleased with eliminating the monsters, Kikuru believed she disrupted their formation. He realized their group still relied on him, delaying his retirement. During the celebration, Kikuru was surprised by the delicious food prepared by Hitamu. At that time, Toxico suggested a cooking contest among them, but Kikuru doubted their cooking skills. However, his skepticism excited them, believing their dishes, despite being rare cooks, were tasty. Thus, the cooking contest began. Curious about their cooking skills, Kikuru decided to inspect their dishes. As he suspected, they had used too many ingredients, resulting in dishes that were unfit to eat. Medena's dish was overly salty with soy sauce, Toxico's was burnt, and Hana's was lumpy. The next day, they ventured into the forest for a new mission. Kikuru, accompanied by Hitamu and Medena, explained they would gather damarpine flowers, which emitted pollen to induce calmness. While Kikuru and Hitamu weren't affected, Medena, as a witch, relied on reciting spell. When Hitamu stumbled, Medena offered help, but Hitamu revealed her ability to focus her mana to self-heal. However, she couldn't heal others, unlike Medena, who possessed special skills granted by a holy bird, enabling her to heal others. While gathering damarpine flowers, Medena noticed a bird above her. As she tried to leave, she accidentally crushed a flower, releasing its pollen, rendering her unable to speak. Medena sought help from Hitamu, who misinterpreted her silence as enthusiasm. Meanwhile, the bird attempted to capture Medena. Thankfully, Kikuru intervened and rescued her, though Medena sustained injuries. Unable to speak, Hitamu used her new healing technique, embracing Medena until she recovered. Impressed, Kikuru appointed Hitamu as their second healer. The following day, Kikuru decided to proceed with the mission alone, while Hitamu and others checked their health. Recently, Kikuru's duties had been neglected due to accompanying them. At that time, Inomine's daughter, Isine, expressed a desire to accompany Kikuru, but he refused due to her young age. Isine then revealed her intention for Kikuru to marry her mother, surprising Inomine. At that time, Inomine explained the impossibility due to her existing husband. This revelation left Kikuru feeling disheartened. After that, Inomine suddenly felt unwell and was taken to rest. Isine then suggested Kikuru care for her mother, with Isine taking over her duties. She believed this was an opportunity for Kikuru to bond with her mother. Shortly after, Isine arrived with Reisumisu, were revealed that she was fired and had joined the Adventurers Guild. Kikuru inquired about the situation, learning that their medical reports were discovered during a recheck by a doctor who obtained data from Hana. However, Reisumisu assured Kikuru that she concealed his identity as their doctor. At that moment, Inomine permitted Reisumisu to start working immediately, but like others, Reisumisu often made mistakes, prompting Kikuru to realize that increasing staff didn't guarantee efficiency. Several days later, Kikuru received a mission to exterminate monsters, including Yagumo, a formidable spider monster. Previous adventurers warned about Yagumo's ability to detect and counterattacks, which posing a challenge even for strong individuals like them. Despite doubts from others, Kikuru led his group into the forest, assigning tasks cautiously. Medena, Hana, and Hitamu formed the rescue team, while Toxico and Kikuru pursued Yagumo. Toxico then expressed concern about facing Yagumo, but Kikuru reassured her, explaining Yagumo's vulnerability to fire, a weakness they could exploit. Suddenly, Yagumo attacked them, but Kikuru dodged just in time. He instructed Toxico to proceed with their plan. However, Yagumo anticipated Toxico's attack, dodging it and striking her from behind. Kikuru, aware of the ambush, shielded Toxico from the attack, rendering himself unconscious. Upon regaining consciousness, Toxico expressed concern about Kikuru's well-being, but he reassured her that he had taken an antidote before being poisoned. Though weakened, he insisted on continuing their mission to prevent Yagumo from attacking the city. Toxico, utilizing her ice abilities, attempted to heal Kikuru, explaining her unique resistance to poison due to her name's origin. After successfully healing Kikuru, they devised a plan to trap Yagumo, with Kikuru relying on Toxico to execute it. Meanwhile, Hana and the rest of the team located the captured adventurers and rescued them, accomplishing their mission successfully. On the other hand, Kikuru reached a cottage where he planned to confront Yagumo. He explored the area and disabled the protective crystals, intending to lure Yagumo there. He then instructed Toxico to set fire to the cottage, and Kikuru provoked Yagumo to draw its attention and lead it to the prepared cottage. Despite being injured, he evaded Yagumo's attacks, realizing his lack of knowledge about its strengths. Determined to uncover its weaknesses, Kikuru used all his skills in the confrontation. Meanwhile, Toxico was stationed near the cottage, following Kikuru's instructions to guard the area. Despite feeling a strong urge to urinate, Toxico knew she couldn't leave her post because Kikuru had set a trap for Yagumo inside the cottage. Kikuru had instructed her to deliver the final attack once Yagumo was lured out. Shortly after, Kikuru arrived at Toxico's position. He positioned himself near a window, carefully executing his plan while avoiding eye contact with Yagumo to prevent it from reading his intentions. Yagumo's attack shattered the glass, causing the fire inside the cottage to spread and hit Yagumo. Seizing the opportunity, Kikuru disabled Yagumo by cutting off its legs, allowing Toxico to deliver the final blow with her magic. Despite injuries and exhaustion, their teamwork led to Yagumo's defeat. The next day, Hitamu visited Kikuru, who was still recovering at home. Hitamu brought food and tea, impressing Kikuru with her delicious cooking. Hitamu then shared Toxico's concern about her role in defeating Yagumo, but Kikuru reassured her that she had played a crucial part. He reminded her that achievements weren't as important to him since he would retire eventually. Upon hearing Kikuru mention retirement, Hitamu suggested they take a stroll in the city and go shopping. Since Kikuru had no work, he agreed. Hitamu then proposed buying food ingredients for dinner, which she would cook later. As they interacted with the sellers, Kikuru was surprised by Hitamu's familiarity with them despite her short time in the city compared to his 10 years. Hitamu then explained Kikuru's role as a city guardian adventurer, leading the sellers to apologize and offer food ingredients as thanks for his service. A few days later, Kikuru and Hitamu went into the forest for monster hunting, accompanied by Noma, whom they had previously rescued. Noma wanted to learn from them after feeling ashamed of underestimating their abilities. Kikuru felt annoyed by the decreasing number of city guards, which delaying his retirement. Suddenly, they were attacked by a snake monster, but Noma, with his ice magic, helped defeat it alongside Kikuru. Noma admitted his weakness in fighting alone, but impressed Kikuru with his quick decision-making. Kikuru was relieved to have Noma with them, feeling less concerned about retirement as long as they had Noma's support. Noma shared with them that his friends in the group always protected him, even though he felt he didn't really need it. Hitamu and Kikuru were surprised to learn that Noma was a man, which made Kikuru angry, leading him to leave abruptly. As Hitamu and Noma were attacked by a slime monster, Noma decided to confront it alone by entering the slime and destroying its core. By the time Kikuru returned, Noma had already defeated the monster. Kikuru then reassured Noma, stating that he wasn't weak for defeating the monster alone, and encouraged him to believe in his abilities. After the hunt, Noma expressed his happiness, feeling enlightened by Kikuru's teachings as a city guard. He vowed not to be a burden to others anymore and committed to training to become stronger. Noma also realized the importance of not just physical strength but also teamwork. He asked Kikuru to join them on future hunts and requested to be trained by him, referring to Kikuru as his master. Kikuru, unable to decline, agreed to mentor Noma. The following day, Kikuru joined Inamine and Reisumisu for research in the forest. Kikuru informed them that the monsters had shifted back to the northern forest after Yagumo's defeat. Inamine then noted this as an improvement in the forest's condition, and they continued their research. While studying a monster, Inamine asked Kikuru about his previous encounter with Toxico, where Toxico mentioned Kikuru had fought Yagumo despite being injured. Kikuru explained that during that hunt, he anticipated Yagumo's attack and was sure it would come. However, due to his negligence, he missed Yagumo's grove, He also acknowledged it was his fault and was determined to defeat Yakumo to rectify his mistake. The following day, Kikuru and the team decided to expand their hunting range to prevent monsters like Yakumo from reappearing. However, their formation was disrupted. Kikuru then asked Toxico to use her lightning magic, but Toxico was too tired. At that time, Maidana was frightened by the number of monsters. Finally, Hana unleashed her berserk to defeat all the monsters. After the battle, Kikuru felt overwhelmed because he couldn't both attack and protect the team. Hitamu, positioned at the rear, often got caught first. They also couldn't venture far because Toxico tired easily. Maidana held back her power due to fear, and Hana, expected to be reliable, proved otherwise. Kikuru then instructed them to train individually. The next day, Hana sought assistance from Anomone, feeling Kikuru still didn't trust her despite her efforts in battle. Anomone then relayed this to Kikuru, prompting him to take action. He decided to reveal Hana's true nature by showing her videos of her condition during her berserk mode, provided by Toxico. At that moment, Hana's servants understood what Kikuru was going to do, but they didn't want to watch and chose to flee. Later, Kikuru asked Hana to meet at his house alone, surprising her. When Hana arrived, she brought food she had just made. When he opened it, it turned out to be very nice, but Kikuru didn't believe the appearance and was sure the taste wouldn't be good. Because he didn't want to eat the cake, he hurriedly played the video he wanted to show Hana. When the video started, he braced for a potential rampage from Hana. After watching the video, Hana revealed that her father, impressed by an 11-year-old city guard. The child was often underestimated and always kept to himself. At that time, her father was impressed with the child, and that child turns out to be Kikuru. Learning that her berserk condition hurt Kikuru, Hana felt immense sadness, believing she couldn't meet his expectations. She assumed her servants avoided discussing her berserk condition out of fear and anger. However, her servants reassured her, expressing they cherished her lively side and that Kikuru didn't harbor any ill feelings. Having heard Hana's side, Kikuru decided not to forbid her from using her berserk, but urged her to learn control. Kikuru wanted Hana to practice managing her rampage so she could retain consciousness while using it. Despite knowing he would often be its target, Kikuru encouraged her to continue mastering it. The following day during their mission, Maidana and Toxico got into a fight in the forest. Kikuru and Noma intervened, seeking to resolve the conflict and understand the cause. At that moment, Kikuru understood that Toxico and Maidana's argument was trivial, because Toxico tried to cheer Maidana up by discussing her favorite novel, but it upset Maidana when Toxico revealed the story. Noma intervened to calm Maidana, but Kikuru disclosed that Noma was a man. Toxico and Maidana were shocked by this revelation, feeling disappointed as they thought Noma was a good friend. Suddenly, Kikuru heard approaching monsters and urged them to stop their argument. As Kikuru went to investigate, a monster emerged behind Toxico. Noma quickly pulled her away, cautioning them about monsters disguised as plants, often in groups. Toxico and Maidana hesitated to use magic, fearing they might harm Noma. Instead, they decided to wait for Kikuru's return. Meanwhile, Kikuru defeated the monsters but realized Noma and the others were in danger. He then hurried back and saved them. Following that, Kikuru began training with Hana, enduring her attacks in her berserk state. However, Hana managed to catch Kikuru, prompting Inamine to quickly make her fall asleep. Inami was surprised as it was her first time witnessing Hana's berserk, but within their group, Hana had the highest achievements, leading other groups to seek her assistance in battling monsters. Yet, witnessing Hana's uncontrollable berserk, Kikuru decided against allowing her to join other groups. Meanwhile, Asine returned from school and found Reizumisu working as receptionist. She asked about her mother's whereabouts, and Reizumisu informed her that Inamine was with Hana and Kikuru on their training on the grassland, bordering the monster forest. Hearing this, Asine then went to the place to observe their training. At the same time, Inamine questioned Kikuru about his change of heart regarding Hana's berserk, considering he had initially planned to forbid it. However, Kikuru was now the one assisting Hana in mastering her berserk state. Kikuru then explained that if Hana could control her berserk, it would greatly benefit them. Inamine then shared with Kikuru that they might be able to manage Hana's berserk without needing to awaken her. Suddenly, Hana woke up still in her berserk state, which seemed to persist even during sleep, only ceasing when she depleted her mana. Inamine then attempted a method she had devised earlier, advising Hana to remain calm since Kikuru favored composed girls. Hana complied, revealing her affection for Kikuru. With this, Kikuru could now influence Hana even during her bursar. The following day, they awaited their wages as city guards and celebrating their first pay. At that time, Inamine explained that each person would receive varying amounts based on their achievements. Hitamu expressed satisfaction despite her modest earnings, feeling grateful for what she received. Toxico and the others planned to use their wages for leisure activities, but Hitamu suggested using hers to bring joy to Kikuru, acknowledging his repeated rescues. Realizing their dependence on Kikuru, as well as the trouble caused by Hana, they resolved to make him happy. Although Kikuru had considered retirement to enjoy his youth, they intended to grant him the joy of youth instead. The following day they visited Kikuru's house with a plan to surprise him, but Kikuru's cautious nature quickly failed their attempt. Toxico clarified that their intention was to recreate a nostalgic scene from their childhood by waking Kikuru up. However, due to Kikuru's vigilance, their plan fell apart. Toxico further explained that they intended to make Kikuru happy by reliving his youth. Hence, they dressed in school uniforms to make Kikuru feel like he was enjoying his youth. Suddenly, Kikuru received a call requesting his presence along with Hitamu. He informed them that he needed to meet his teacher to discuss the strange behavior of monsters towards women. Thus, he suggested they return home. However, they insisted on staying to prepare food for Kikuru. Eventually, Kikuru and Hitamu left for their meeting with Kikuru's teacher. During the meeting, Kikuru's teacher, named Meal, introduced herself and suggested that Hitamu might be linked to the unusual behavior of the monsters. Confused, Kikuru requested further explanation from Mill as he didn't understand what she had said. Meanwhile, Toxico and the others had finally succeeded in preparing delicious food. Toxico explained that they didn't rely solely on the recipe but incorporated their own cooking techniques. They believed that by adding their own talent to the dishes, they could surpass Hitamu's culinary skills. The trio decided to enhance the food using their unique abilities. On the other hand, Mill clarified to Kikuru and Hitamu that humans obtain mana from pure magic in the air, unlike monsters who directly absorb it. Humans typically absorb only 1% to 5% of the available mana, but Hitamu can absorb up to 100%. This ability makes Hitamu highly desirable to monsters, as they see her as a premium source of nourishment. Under such circumstances, Hitamu's body would undoubtedly become more sensitive, leading to difficulties in controlling her movements, such as struggling with judging distances and frequently losing balance. This realization dawned on Kikuru, explaining why Hitamu often stumbled. After finding the answer that had puzzled him, they returned home to check on Toxico and the others. However, upon arrival, Kikuru was taken aback by what he saw. They had teamed up and created strange dishes. Kikuru's suspicion proved true. They had indeed prepared food that was far from appetizing. Disheartened, Kikuru felt that this was not the carefree enjoyment of youth he had hoped for. With that, the anime comes to an end. Moral lesson from the story: always appreciate the effort put into something, even if the result is not what you expected, and never judge a cookbook by its cover, unless the book written by inexperienced adventurers.